Can diabetics eat bacon? Can we also use high saturated fats like butter, lard to cook our foods in? New, groundbreaking studies have now confirmed our health is actually better with these certain fats. The low-fat, modified cholesterol experiment our experts have been running on modern man is coming to an end. Our guidelines will change as a result of what you will learn today. As with all of my videos, this should not be considered personal medical advice. This is my interpretation of the latest research. If you want medical advice, please always consult your physician. I have always said we are what we eat. Science is increasingly exposing more and more evidence showing how evolution set our genetic framework of our metabolism. There is a saying, nothing in biology and nutrition makes sense except in the light of evolution. The clues that evolutionary evidence provides for optimal human nutrition will be, in my opinion, proven correct in the end. Our bodies average around 30 to 40 trillion cells at any given time. What we eat on a daily basis influences our cell structures and ultimately our overall health. The majority of cells in our bodies are actually red blood cells. Although they make up 80% of our body in number, all of these cells in our bodies, depending on their lifespan, die and are rebuilt on a daily basis. The foods we eat directly make the structures for these newly formed cells. So that is why our cells' health consequently affects our life expectancy. But what has been happening to our life expectancy? Between 1959 and 2014, the average length of time that Americans were expected to live was on the rise. But that rate of increase slowed over time and life expectancy actually decreased after 2014. For 3 years in a row, it declined, according to a new study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Who was hit the hardest? People between the ages of 25 and 64 are the ones dying at the highest rates. This demographic was wrecked with health problems we are calling metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, cancer, even dementia and Alzheimer's. In 1960, we had the highest life expectancy of any country in the world. But in the last couple of years, the U.S. has plummeted to the bottom of the list with countries with similar GDP. Sadly, this is the first generation where the parents may outlive our children. And what have the experts been blaming for the last 50 years? We have been told to eat low-fat everything, to trim our steaks, pat the grease off our bacon, drink skim milk instead of whole, and only eat the egg whites. They've been saying the types of fats found in meats, in dairy products are dangerous for our hearts and our overall health. Eat too much, they say, and it will raise your LDL, the bad cholesterol, the stuff that leads to clogged arteries and heart attacks. The American Diabetes Association still recommends the goal for people with and without diabetes is to eat less than 10% of the calories from saturated fat. The proteins high on their list to avoid or to limit include red meat such as beef, pork, lamb, breaded, fried, or high sodium meats, processed meats such as bacon, hot dogs, and deli meats. So the trillion-dollar question is, does this end today? Can we literally eat our juicy steaks? And why not throw in an egg yolk and some heavy cream too? And my friends, this is big, and I do mean big. The American College of Cardiology has just published their state-of-the-art study announcing their new stance on saturated fats. Limiting saturated fat intake is not supported by the data, despite mounting evidence to the contrary, as I have been saying this from day one. This is the study you want to show your doctors. Print it out and take it to them. They need to know. I'll put a link in the description box below for you. This most recent meta-analysis of randomized trials and observational studies found no beneficial effects of reducing saturated fatty acid intake on cardiovascular disease and total mortality. And instead, get this, it found a protective effect against stroke. Whole fat dairy, unprocessed meats, eggs, and dark chocolate, in other words, saturated fatty acid rich foods with complex matrix, are not associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Although saturated fatty acids do increase low-density lipoproteins, or the LDL carriers, in most individuals, this is not due, and I repeat this, not due to the increasing levels of small, dense, damaging LDL particles, but rather the fluffy, larger LDLs, which are less strongly correlated to cardiovascular risk. And how are these small, dense, damaging LDL particles created in the first place? When one consumes a diet high in carbohydrates, especially refined carbs. According to the study, it is the overall macronutrient distribution of the diet is what really matters. And this is the single most important point to know. The high carbohydrate proponents are correct to a point. Saturated fatty acids can be extremely dangerous and deadly when eaten with the wrong combination of foods. Have we essentially been playing Russian roulette with our bodies when it comes to going against nature and evolution? So then let me give you another alarming trend and cover two more very important studies. To cash in on the anti-fat agenda, a subset of what's known as functional foods have been developed. They are sold as supplements or put into foods such as margarines. These are supplemented with phytosterols, advertised for the management of high cholesterol levels, and have become widely used as a non-prescription approach. It is estimated that in 2005 worldwide, over $3 billion were spent on these various functional foods. Let me tell you, there is a market competition, a war, as facts are going to be manipulated. In one corner, you've got the dietary phytosterols, which are, quote unquote, all natural products. And in the other, you've got the statin industry and other similar drugs, both vying for your dollar against the evil cholesterol monster and its carrier, the LDL particle. So then, what are phytosterols in the first place? Phytosterols are plant sterols and are a family of molecules related to cholesterol. They are found in the cell membranes of plants, where they play important roles just like cholesterol does in us humans. Because phytosterols are structurally similar to the body's cholesterol, when they are consumed, they compete with cholesterol for the absorption in the digestive tract. As a result, cholesterol absorption is blocked, which then reduces circulating blood cholesterol levels. But introducing them to the human body has caused something to go tragically wrong. Here is the very first problem. The body, due to evolution, realizes the danger of these plant sterols and tries to reject them immediately at the gut. Why? Because it knows once integrated into cells, it will change structure. We are not plants by nature. We are mammals. Yes, it is true. Plant sterols in high dose supplement form will lower LDL cholesterol in the ranges of around 5 to 15%. But unfortunately, there is no good evidence that plant sterols actually lower the risk of heart disease. In fact, it's possible that plant sterols could actually promote heart disease. To explain this paradox, we need to discuss our cells, the cell membrane, and the fluid mosaic model. So in other words, what does the cell membrane or outer wall look and function like? If you were to zoom in on the cell membrane, you would see a pattern of different types of molecules put together, also known as a mosaic. These molecules are constantly moving in 2 dimensions in a fluid fashion, similar to icebergs floating in the ocean. The purpose of the cell membrane is to hold the different components of the cell together and to protect it from the environment outside the cell. The cell membrane also regulates what enters and exits the cell so that it doesn't lose too many nutrients. Sterols are a major component of the cellular membrane structure. In mammalian membranes, cholesterol is the predominant sterol, but these plant sterols or phytosterols can also be found. If these plant sterols are present in concentrations higher than normal, then the big unknown question is, will they strongly affect cell membrane properties? So in this first study, called Vascular Effects of Diet Supplementation with Plant Sterols, so they first took a set of rats. One was given normal rat chow and the other was supplemented with these plant sterols. The rats given normal chow showed normal dilation of their blood vessels. The sterol group showed the walls of these vessels had severe inability to stretch. They then created a stroke in the animals to test the hypothesis even further. The size of the stroke was much smaller in the group given the normal rat chow versus the group given the sterols. The animal models do tell us one thing, the overall hypothesis, but here is what makes this study so great. They took it a step further. They had access to 82 patients who needed their heart valves replaced. So they did a concurrent evaluation of how many of them were eating margarine and how much. Because if you remember, margarine is highly supplemented with these plant sterols. So not only did they measure how much was getting into the blood, but they took samples of those heart valves to see how much of those sterols were integrated into those heart cells. What was the shocker? Even in those who use margarine on an irregular basis had depositions of plant sterols in their cells. But the patients eating the supplemented margarine on a regular basis showed 1, a significant increase in plasma concentrations in the blood, and 2, a 5-fold higher sterol concentration in the aortic valve tissue. Besides margarine, you may be wondering, what are the other dangerous sources of plant sterols? And we have discussed them in detail already. Vegetable oils, corn and soybean oil being the worst. And here's something to think about. Every fat originating from vegetables or seeds has these sterols, including olive oil. Cereal grains also contain modest amounts of phytosterols and can be a major source for those people who eat a lot of grains. This next study to discuss was pretty simple. They fed one set of rats a high saturated fat diet, another group corn oil, and another olive oil. The studies show the rats on both the corn and the olive oil both died significantly sooner than the rats fed the high animal-based fat diet. This study also confirmed that high concentrations of phytosterols changed the structure of the cell walls, making them rigid, which contributed to the shorter lifespan of the rats. Now, these landmark studies we have just gone through will not get much attention at first. Why? It goes against the grain of the mainstream narrative. They will try and discredit and bury this. Remember, we've all been indoctrinated and brainwashed into the idea all carbs are good and saturated fats are bad. The mounting evidence is now just getting way too strong, and the pendulum has begun to swing the other way. But it will take time. Personally, what had my head spinning was the effect of olive oil had on the rat's cell membranes. This is why I've had my family scale back on the monounsaturated fats like the olive oil and the avocado oil, and we are using more butter from grass-fed cows or solid fats over any of the liquid oils. As information changes and becomes more clear, I change. Knowing what I know now, I do not want my children to be part of that statistic where I outlive them. We are actually going old school in this Resilient Diabetic household. I am not taking that risk anymore for me and my growing family. One must remember how important cholesterol is to our health. Our livers can produce between 800 to 1,000 milligrams of cholesterol a day. But unlike fat, an energy substrate which contains 9 calories per gram, cholesterol has no calories. When we happen to take in more cholesterol from the food we eat, the liver then produces less, resulting in stable blood cholesterol levels the body then needs. You can't beat evolution. We are what we eat. Let me state my opinion here. Is there a considerable danger in eating a diet high in saturated fats? Yes. And listen carefully. The low-fat, high-carb group is right to a point. The danger occurs when one is concurrently eating a diet high in carbohydrates, especially refined carbs, together with any of the fats, not just saturated fats. This is the key you must understand. The human body was never designed to have two different sources of energy coming in at the same time, fats and carbohydrates. No isolated food in nature has both carbohydrates and fats together. Everything our ancestors ate was either food that contained natural carbs in isolation, like fruits and vegetables, foods that had carbs and protein together, or foods that contained fats and protein together, such as meats. Never, and I'll repeat this, never high amounts of carbs and fats together. This is the invention of modern man. That toxic combinations lowers life expectancy and kills. I will create a playlist for you with more videos on diabetes, life expectancy, and diseases. You will learn the direct correlations between diabetes and high blood pressure, diabetes and cancer, and even how our A1C influences our standard of living. If you're on your desktop or laptop, I want you to use your mouse to click this upcoming box. If you're on your mobile device, tap that with your fingers. The first is the link to subscribe to this all-important channel. The second is the link mentioned on the playlist. So, have a great and productive day, and we will see you soon with another new episode, which are generally released weekly. Bye for now.